So, welcome to another episode of Milky Do Biscuit. So here we've got Michael Villines today, because I learned today how to actually pronounce his last name because I know him for months. But Michael is a dear friend of mine, also another 10Xer. You can see his spin, like I've got my wristband over here. And Michael is an incredible human. He's so humble, so full of thirst to help others, and an incredible desire to elevate himself and learn and become great at what he is or what he can be, and just explode and help others along the way. And I couldn't be more happy to have him here today, and to listen from him and learn from him and see what he has to share with us. So let's get this baby on the road. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how are you?
Good. It's good to be here on this beautiful Sunday morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So how was Michael had before we started recording, we were talking about he had a flat tire, so he had to change his tire. So thank God that didn't happen on the way somewhere, because we want to keep him around.
Yeah,
So
tire would have blown.
Sorry.
Yeah, tire would have blown out. Would have put the spare on. Would have been good to go.
There you go. I've actually never had to do that. I mean, I don't drive every day, so that's another thing. But I've never. I was thinking about that when you told me the story. If that happens to me somewhere, I'm effed up because I would be like one of these graphic ideas you have of women who have no idea how to change a tire, and they have no idea if they open the front of the car what happens, like what anything does. I have no idea. I'm one of those women.
Yeah, thankfully it's not that complicated, so I'm sure
Sure.
you could figure out or call one of your guy friends, and they be more than happy to help you out.
Maybe there are YouTube videos about how to change a car's tire.
Well, yeah, pretty much whatever you want to work on is
Yeah.
on YouTube University. I've known working in the plants, I've known guys who they were very skilled mechanically, but when there was something wrong with their trucks,
Yeah.
they went to YouTube and just started watching people work on the vehicles, trying to figure out their problems. And they pretty much always found whatever answer they were looking for. And changing a tire is simple enough because you've got on the tire like those studs that are on the inside of the wheel.
So
you just have to take those off, and then you put your spare on, tying them up. When you get it tight, then you'll want to loosen it up a little bit, tighten it again, because sometimes when you tighten up the lug nuts, that one's not really tight, but it'll feel tight because as the tire sinks in more and more, that you lose that. And then you want to, when you put the spare on, you want to get it to where it's a little like where it's snug, lower the car down to the ground, then you tighten it up on the ground. That way the tires there. So there's a quick rundown on how to change a tire if you happen to need to put on a spare.
I hope I will never have to, because next month I'm actually going to rent a car for about a week. So, and I will be in Jordan. So let's see how that's going to go. Hopefully the car will be fine. And I'll be fine, but otherwise, this is what you rent a car, you've got insurance. This is what it's there for. Hopefully I won't need to use it. So yeah, thanks for that lesson, by the way.
Yeah.
So tell me a few things about yourself, Michael. What do you want to share? What do you want to share? Where did you grow up? Siblings? How was your childhood? Just let us know you a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, so I was born in Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up on a acre of farmland. There's 3 houses that I remember.
Wow.
I've heard my parents talk about we lived in like 1 or 2 houses before, but you got that point when you're alive and you don't remember life, and then
Yeah.
you remember life. And the first house that when my memory, the part of my memory that I remember is that the first house that we lived in was an acre of farmland.
Wow.
So being a small boy and having corn silos to run around and all that stuff, that was about as good of a childhood as I could get.
Of
And
course.
then my family changed churches and we moved closer to that, which was about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I played baseball growing up. And the that's when like the highlight of my baseball career was in that like 4 or 5 years when we were there. And then my
Nice.
dad ended up moving to Idaho because the place that he worked at, they ended up hiring this brilliant contractor
Mm-hmm.
to be his boss, but the guy had no people skills. So my
Ouch.
dad told his boss, if you hire this guy as my boss, I quit. His
Wow.
boss didn't believe him, so he hired him as his boss. And then my dad ended up finding a job at a fertilizer plant, phosphate fertilizer plant. They
Mm.
mine gypsum ore out of the ground, and then they make fertilizer out of it. They crush it up and then make fertilizer out of it, sell it to local farmers, and then so that's so the first 15 years of my life was in Ohio. The
Mm-hmm.
next was in Idaho. I went to college. Like there's certain periods of your life that you can say,
Yeah.
this is where I picked up this, like
Mm.
these are the different phases. This is when I grew. Like my youth was in Ohio. And then when I started growing up and developed some things and some habits,
Mm.
like in college, I was trying to be a national championship in judo,
Oh, wow.
and I went to college. So some of mental grit and some of the things that the things that you develop later on in life,
Mm.
it's not that you haven't had those in the past, but
Mm.
depending upon your environment and the people you're around,
Mm.
those things get refined. And then got out of college, ended up calling a recruiter. I was having trouble. I went to college for welding. I have a
Oh,
degree in welding, an associate's degree.
oh, wow.
And then called up. My dad was like, hey, I've got this number to this recruiter. You can go ahead, you can give him a call. It's okay. So eventually I broke down, called him up, and he basically said, hey, Michael, when you look on coming down. So I told him the time, and then I went back to school for another semester.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of that, I called him up because when I decided to go back to school, it was like, that's cool. Just call me and let me know when you're going to be coming. So called him back, and it took him a week to get back to me. They
Yeah.
went be down here for the second week in January, 7 years, almost 8 years ago,
Wow.
and then moved down. And then like my adult part of my life has been in Louisiana. So a lot of the things
Wow.
I've developed in Louisiana and a bunch of the different factors and things
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
college, the things I picked up from judo, whatnot, that was all Idaho. And then Louisiana was starting my career
Career. Yeah.
in like just working
Yeah.
for the first time, really. And then And then that started a business and diagnosed MS, and a lot of other big stuff happened to where like there's a certain part of Louisiana that I can credit as being that's where that part of my life got
Yeah.
started and formed.
One thing I wanted to ask you earlier, I know we came a bit off the topic, but how was it to move at the age of 15? Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were homeschooled, right? Up until
Right.
university. So I don't know how that would be with like kids and friends from school and, you know, friends from the neighborhood maybe. But how was it moving at the age of 15? Did you like it? Were you like, no, Dad, I want to stay here. Where are we moving? You know?
So it was different. So why it was different was because like because we were homeschooled,
Yeah.
all my friends were basically from the neighborhood or whatnot, and from the sports teams I played on and church. So when we moved away, like that that high school part of your life, as far as like developing part of your character, your friends, like a lot of people there where they're born, they die there. So, and they never go somewhere else. So getting out of, my dad grew up extremely poor, that him and his family moved around like 18 or 20 plus
Oh,
times
wow.
when he was a kid. And most of the time, if you're moving around like that, that's because you're changing jobs or you just don't have a ton of money. So you have to switch places around because lower rent or whatnot. And so I ended up, because I ended up getting pulled away from that and then get stuck in a new environment,
Yeah.
that we were still homeschooled in Idaho. So besides the sports teams, I didn't really know a ton of other people.
Sure.
Whenever the part of Idaho that we lived in, that the big religion or whatever you want to call LDS, or it was huge Mormon. So we didn't, so because of that and being Christians, that we didn't really fit in because of that. But every single year, when Idaho has the least restrictions out of any state in the US for homeschoolers, that was part of the reason why my dad moved to Idaho, besides the new job,
What do you
was
mean
because,
restrictions? In what sense? What kind of
so
restrictions?
if you're homeschooled,
Yeah.
there are states that the high schools will not let you play on their sports teams. So Idaho, the rule at that time, I don't know if it's changed, but you had to take one test that covered you for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So because of that rule, me and my brother, we were able to play on the sports team and there was no problem. So,
You
and
mean a
then,
school sports team that you were not part of the school, right?
right.
All
And we were
right.
me and my brother, we were able to play high school sports for the entire time we were in Idaho. And whenever
Nice.
it gets to the sports season and they take photos of the team, that they post up all of our pictures on the wall. So all the kids at the school be like, who's that? And they'd be pointing to like me and my brother, because we didn't go to the school. And then all the guys on the sports teams would be like, that's Villines. Like, you know who that is? But the thing was, when you do something like that, if you put in the work, you do all the drills, you go through all the same conditioning, suffering, whatever else coaches are trying to do to you, that if you do all that, then everybody's accepted. and everybody's okay with you being on the team
On the
because
team.
you're bleeding as much as they are. And then all the kids who were at the public school who didn't do that, nobody liked those guys. But us, because we went through everything that everybody was, they all accepted us. So, and then I had like a couple people that I was friends with, then pretty much everybody was friend with my brother. So
Okay. So he was the popular one, and you were more the not so popular one.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh, nice one.
At least among the guys.
Yeah. But you also have a sister, if I'm correct, yes?
Yeah. My sister's about 5 years older than me, I think.
Yeah.
5 or 6. So when we moved to Idaho, she was already in college.
Sure. So she didn't move with you. Okay.
Right. And then she ended up switching universities, and then so she ended up getting residency because it's a lot more money to go out of state to college than it is in state. So she ended up getting she ended up finishing out the semester and everything at college. And then once that school year was over, then she moved to Idaho. She worked a summer job, and then she ended up getting in-state residency, and she went to one of the universities here.
Okay, right. Wow. So this is stuff I don't know, because like all this education system in the US and all things between different states and stuff, these are things I have no idea. Like it sounds a little bit like European Union, like you have like that there are rules that every country has to obey, but also every country has their own, because they're individual countries with their own prime ministers. Sounds a little bit like that, maybe like in the lighter version for the states, but that's the closest thing that I can actually understand. Right. So so tell me, Michael, what do you do at this moment? Because I think you're still working, but you're also running your own business, which is exciting. So what do you do?
Yeah, so my main job is I'm an estimator planner in industrial construction. I started off as a helper, worked my way when I went to school for pipe fitting, became a certified pipe fitter, and then I somehow ended up working my way into becoming a planner estimator. And so I went from in the field to being in the office, and then which is rare for people in construction.
Oh, really?
And then, yeah, it's just hard to move up. And sometimes you need to know somebody for that, and maybe my one contact helped me out a lot with that, just because I had that. And he always kept me rolling because I always did a good job on whatever job I worked. Because I figured out that after a while, whenever I'd finish a job, he would call the site supervision who ran the job that I was doing, and he would ask the supervisors how I did on the job site. And they always said positive things about me. And at one point he was like, it helps when people say good things about you.
Of course.
And you keep on doing good work, and I can keep on helping you. Basically, if you're doing a good job, I can help you find that next spot. Like if I'm doing a bad job or whatnot, then it's kind of difficult to find what job sites to help me out, to move me onto. And then so that always helped me out. And then I ended up starting up a business on the side, to where I work with people who have autoimmune conditions, giving them the confidence for everyday life, to where they can live to their full potential for the reason that God created them for.
So let me like, this is a valid question, right? So you're doing well at your job, and you're getting promotions, and you know your good work is getting noticed, and so on. But why would you want to make something else? Like, a lot of people, and maybe most people, would be quite happy and still keep working to get higher up in their company they work for, right? Or move a different company, you know, exploiting their skills and expertise. But why you're not happy to do that? Why do you want to have your own business? Why do something extra? You know, and let's face it, riskier than working for an organization that already is working, right?
Right. I mean, and the company I'm working for is $1 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
I think
There you go.
worth
So it's a
2
safety in
billion.
that.
Right. So I ended up getting the promotion in 2020. So
Okay.
I moved from being somehow got called into a room, had a conversation with some of the higher ups and the head guy from the office for that job site. They ended up calling me into a room and then had a conversation, and that's an interesting story in itself.
Mhm.
And I ended up getting put into the position that I have.
Sure.
And so that was 2020. So there were two major events that happened in 2020 for me.
Mhm.
One was I changed job sites, and the other was COVID happened.
Mhm.
So because when COVID got kicked off, it hit every state at a different time period, but it
Mhm.
really started making an impact in the US sometime around March. Some states were January, February, and then but March is when we had Mardi Gras. So with how infectious COVID is,
Sure.
that thing spread like wildfire when you got all these people close to
Mm.
each other. Louisiana was one of the three epicenters
Mm.
when COVID hit the US. It was
Mhm.
Seattle, New York, and New Orleans. Those were basically where everything got spread out of.
Sure.
And so the company sent everybody to go work from home that could go work from home.
Mhm.
And then um so I was working from home, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later I ended up getting a call from my boss. He
Mhm.
said, Monday I'm gonna have to lay you off. The
Wow.
numbers aren't working out. And I went, okay. And then he was like, finish out the work week, bring in your stuff Monday. And then because I had a laptop and a bunch
Sure.
of other
Company's
stuff
equipment.
for my
Yeah.
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up going, and I was planning on dropping all the stuff off Monday. And then Sunday, as I was listening to the Sunday sermon, because church went virtual, as a lot of other churches
Yeah.
did. And my boss called me up. He was like, hey, are you like in conference in a meeting or something? I was like, no, I'm just listening to church sermon. He's like, oh, okay. And then he was like, hey, the numbers are working out. It looks like I can keep you,
Oh.
and we'll go full time for right now. And if we have to bump you down to part time, we'll do that.
Sure.
So I was like, cool. So that was a week or two. And then my boss called me back and he said, hey, we're going to have to cut your hours in half because 20 hours is the minimum that I need to work to keep my benefits
Mhm.
with the company.
Yep.
So that's why they picked 20. And
Yeah.
then they ended up work 20. He was like, hey, is that okay with you? I was like, yeah, that's great. Because I was happy. I got to keep my job.
Yeah.
I still had my benefits. So if something
Gratitude.
happened, I could go see the doctor.
Benefits? What do you
And
mean? Benefits?
so my health care,
Sure.
my 401k, disability, and a bunch of other stuff is through my work. So
Sure.
that's what I mean by benefits.
Gotcha.
So around that time, I had about $5,000 saved up in my account. I was like, I'm good. And then came around, and then the number kept on getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so I was like, I need to fix my cash flow problem. That's what the issue is, because I'm just not making enough money at my main job. So I tried to get unemployment, because in the States at that time, you could apply for unemployment and they would basically pay you the same amount as your employer did. But that wasn't going on through. So I sent a letter to the state saying, hey, I haven't received any money. And that way, when taxes came around, I wouldn't get messed over on taxes. And then found a job at a local grocery store. Nobody was leaving any of the big grocery stores, but the local grocery stores, they were hiring people. So I got a job there. And then, so that was July. And then October, November came around, and I just looked at my finances and I was like, I don't know if I have enough money to make it another month. So granted, there was a moratorium that was put out that you couldn't get evicted and whatnot, but like, I wanted to pay for everything, not have to put on that moratorium, because once that moratorium was up, the place that you live at expected you to make up all that money. So you don't make any money at all. Now you have $12,000, you just have to fork up. So I was like, it's not a good deal.
No.
So, and then I can just remember driving to work and just praying like, God, I'm doing everything that I can right now, and it's not good enough. What am I doing wrong? Like, what needs to change? And then I had my coworker ended up going out for emergency surgery, and that was crazy. She almost died on the table. And so my boss ended up calling me up and he said, hey, Stephanie has to go out, and I'm going to teach you how to do her job. So I went, okay, cool. So that bumped me back up to full time.
Sure.
And then because I have MS, they do MRIs. So I was able to pay for an MRI, get caught up, and a situation that wasn't good for her was good for me. And so I was able to use that. And so ironically, around that time, the first 10X challenge that I was a part of, and that might have been the first 10X challenge that they did, that I ended up signing up for that, and I did that. So I was working both jobs.
So that's why, that's when you came across GC and the 10X community. It was late 2020.
Right.
Okay.
So, and then I ended up I remember after going through the 10X challenge and then working both jobs, that I can remember, because I was kind of a jack of all trades at the grocery store. I was in floor care, but I didn't really do one specific thing, unlike everybody else, that I ended up getting moved from cold cuts to floor care. And when I got moved, because they already had people who did floor care, I was kind of like the fill-in guy, like the third shift guy on floor care.
Like the third wheel.
Right. That I just went, I'm going to make myself valuable to the store.
Yeah.
So I learned how to do like 20, 25 different things.
Sure.
Whatever new skill and thing that I could pick up, I did.
You did.
So, and when I applied for a raise, that's one thing that automatically sealed that raise for me, because when I asked for the raise, The one store manager wasn't really helping me out a ton. He was just busy with a lot of stuff.
Sure.
So he'd always forget to ask the person above
The main
him
manager. Yeah.
about that. So I ended up typing out a piece of paper, like my best pitch of myself, put down all the tasks I could remember, printed it out, signed the bottom, gave it to him. He looked at that. He was like, I can work with this.
Because
So,
I won't forget to say that, I will just give it to someone. Yeah.
right. And so, because of all that, on the weekends when we get into rush hour, I would bag groceries for the cashiers.
Yeah.
And I could just remember walking up, bagging groceries, and the entire time being like, I'm not living to my full potential. Like, I should be like
Doing something else.
there's more, and like there's more than this. So I was like, I need to do something else. So that means I need to figure out something to come up with that. Either means find a new main job,
Yeah.
or start something on my own. And I noticed that the values and stuff that I valued with my company,
Yeah.
it seemed like my company had moved away from those. And I'd always said,
Your previous company that you worked, yeah.
not
Okay.
the same company, it just seemed like with all the management changes that it moved away from
The culture
some of
changed.
the values and things that when I first started with the company, I went, if this changes, then I'll start looking for a new company.
Sure.
And I felt like when I moved up, I had seen some of those changes. So I went, I could look for that company out there who has that. But
Yeah.
what if I don't find them? Or what if it's 10 years down the road and I finally find them? And I'm still working the same job or jobs. And I'm like, that's not
Good
good
enough.
enough. So I was like, I know, like, if I start something, I know that company's going to have those values and those things that I really hold dear to my heart.
Sure.
So I talked with a coach from Poland who worked on helping people start stuff on Facebook. And my goal at the time, and it was that I wanted to change the entire leadership structure in industrial construction.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I could start something with leadership, but the people might go like, who are you? Like, you're not really in a leadership position. Like, why should I listen to you?
Yeah, sure.
But I noticed through some other stuff that a lot of people who have autoimmune conditions, there's a mindset issue with that. I was like, I can help out anybody with that.
What do you
So
mean a mindset issue?
So because I ended up joining a challenge that was run by Terry Walls.
Okay.
And she's a rock star in the MS community. She went from like inverted or reverted wheelchair to where it basically puts you to where you're laying flat, and to where she's walking around and giving seminars. And she teaches a bunch of what helped her out to heal. And so I noticed when I was on that challenge that every single person, when they talked, there was like this thought or this belief or something that held them back. Like, it made it like, I think this is gonna work, but I'm not sure. And there was always this little one of the people that she brought on to talk to everybody, that person went on and talked like, yeah, like this diet and everything, it's helping me out. But she had a son, and the son didn't want to eat the way that she ate. So that was a huge mental issue for her because that was an obstacle that she had to overcome every single day. So my coach was like, I think that's the one. So that's when I ended up starting my own company to work with that.
So by that, you mean with people with multiple sclerosis
With
and other autoimmune
multiple
diseases?
sclerosis.
Mm-hmm.
And then I eventually opened it up to other autoimmune conditions because a lot of the stuff that you have to do to really heal fits in pretty much all the conditions.
So what is your goal? Is what do you want to do with your company?
So my goal is that I'm going to be setting up a one-stop shop because there's so many different modalities and things that you have that if you want to heal, you need to focus on a bunch of different stuff.
Sure.
Like there's a lot of experts in those areas, but and they all focus on something different. But I'm setting up something to where somebody works with me and my company that all that different stuff, it's set up. So they don't have to go to multiple or work with multiple people. They come there and everything's worked out for them.
Sure.
And
So it's kind of like blending together anything that like as a whole, what people need basically.
Right. And the end goal is to impact and affect 2 billion people's lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that number?
I'd always listen to GC talk. He's like 6 billion and now it's 7 billion.
Sure.
And that I was like, so in the world, there's about 2 million people that we know of that have multiple sclerosis, and about half of them are in the US. And
2 million, right? In the whole world.
2 million, yeah, in the whole world.
And then it's funny that I know 4 people, isn't it funny? And 2 of them are from my hometown. Literally 2 buildings next to each other where I grew up until the age of 6, and from the age of 6 to the age of 13. It's insane.
Yeah. So when I thought about the different numbers, I went, well, I don't know if like 2 million's really, like when you make a goal, you want to set it to where when you set that goal, you're like, I don't know if I can do that, but it'd be really cool if I could.
Okay. So you want your goal to scare you or to motivate you?
Well, because I mean, I've even heard Grant talk about when he sets his goals, because I kind of copied Grant. I did copy Grant when I set that goal, because Grant would set something and he'll go, guys, this is what we have to do, even with the growth cons. And everybody on his team were like, I don't know if we can do that. But he's like, we're doing this. And they're all like, yeah, let's do it. And then they work on making that, and then it always happens.
Sure.
So I was like, take that same approach, put it with my company to where, I don't know, 2 billion people have autoimmune conditions, but if they don't, that means I have to branch out to just more than people have autoimmune conditions, like every single day people, and helping them out with their struggles and the things in their life. So I'm like, either way, it's going to have to force me to grow as a person, because it's going to have to force me to learn about tons of different conditions, because it's every condition. I want this for even the new ones. When I was diagnosed, there was like 100 and something plus new autoimmune conditions that were found
Wow.
that year.
Wow.
And who knows what's happened since then as that number's changed.
Wow.
So I'm like, why not make it a goal to where whatever condition you have, we can help you out. So that means me as a person, I have to grow both to myself and my knowledge and being able to help out other people. Plus, the goal has to be big enough to where, man, I don't know if there's that many people who have autoimmune conditions. So I have to branch out and help out more than just those people with autoimmune conditions.
I
So
see.
it's forcing me to grow as a person because this is the goal that I want. I don't know if I can get there. Well, but what if I could?
Sure.
That'd be really cool. And I'm not where I should be right now.
Yeah.
So I have to grow, and that has to force and compress me to go, this is a really big project. Let's start going because it has to work.
And by we, are you referring to any present partners or future partners
No,
you
just
will have?
me. I mean, I'll have future partners,
Sure.
and then other people have other strengths that I don't have.
Absolutely.
Plus, if you want to go anywhere in life, you have to work with other people.
Absolutely.
Even Arnold said, I'm not a self-made man. That's a lie. So after that, I'm like, and I mean, and Jesus had 12 disciples. So if the only person who's ever been perfect had to bring on some help, I'm like,
I mean, he had more
definitely
than
gonna have
that.
to work with other people.
These were his closest followers, but he had more than that, if everything is correct. But what we know, it was way more than that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So how would you see yourself in, like, let's say 5 years in regards to your company? Where would you like to be? Because of course we know things will change, things might change and plans may change, but what is with the present facts that we have, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
With the present facts, where I see myself in 5 years is I'm doing this full time. I'm no longer in industrial construction. That my goal is that if anything, company that I work for is call me out to come to different job sites or in the office, and because I have a working relationship there and teaching people how to deal with stress, making other lifestyle changes to where they do 180 and they flip their lives around. Like a lot of this stuff anybody can use. And so if I can get my company to bring me in, teach their employees that, and do that to where the company that I'm starting with, working with people who have autoimmune conditions, that this is the goal for the rest of my life, really.
Holy. So tell me, well, I've got 2 questions. I'm just thinking, what number should I ask you? Tell me one thing at least that one of the greatest lessons you've had in your journey so far.
One of the greatest lessons I've had is just that probably where you are is where you're supposed to be. Like we write down our goals and what we want the future and everything to look like. But a lot of the times when you're working on accomplishing something huge, that you go, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. and you start beating yourself up. And it's just how things are happening, and when things fall into place, like keep on working on that goal and everything. But when things start falling into place, that's when it's supposed to happen. And that a lot of the times when you focus on that goal, it doesn't always happen when you want it to happen. It might happen like a month or however later, but when it happens, that's when it's supposed to happen. That's when everything like falls into place. A lot of the times you're trying to rush something, and even when you try and rush things, door seems to get shut, closed, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is irritating. And I worked so hard to get that, and then you don't get that. But then all of a sudden, seems like another door opens up somewhere along the line. You take that door, and then you look at it and you go, that one door would have been a really, really bad idea to go into, but you couldn't see that in the moment.
Yeah.
But then later on, when you're in that one door, you're like, this is the perfect place to be. And a lot of that is having grace with yourself, because one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, talks about that 2 millimeter shift, to where, and he talks about the golfing lesson where he got the best golfing instructor, guy took him to the range. He was hitting the balls great. And then he went, hey, let's go to the golf course. He was like, okay. So he shanks it left on the first time he hits it. And then the second time he hits it, he shanks it right. And then he looks at the instructor. He's like, man, like, what am I doing wrong? Yesterday, everything went great at the driving range. And the instructor looks at him, he goes, it's a 2 millimeter shift in your swing. So when you look at that to everything else you're doing, and you say 2 millimeter shift, because people go, self-accountability is keeping yourself honest, being hard on yourself, beating yourself up. Well, like, being mean to yourself, that doesn't help out anybody. But if you look back and you say, what really went off? And then you look at the series of events, you go, okay, that's where I made my mistake. And you fix that, odds are you might run into the similar situation, or maybe the next day you had the same schedule, you got a different problem. But because you thought about that first problem, fix that from happening, the next day you have a problem, it's different. And it's constantly looking and going, hey, like, where's my 2 millimeter shift off? Because as you grow and you get better, that you just grow as a person, and your knowledge, like, I look back at some messages I sent earlier this year, and like earlier posts, I'm like, oh my gosh, those are terrible.
Yeah. And it's like what you said earlier about choosing the right door. It just makes me remember Jim Rohn's quote, which Jim Rohn, I believe it was Tony Robbins' mentor as well. And he said,
his first mentor.
Yeah. And he said that success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. That can mean a lot of things, different people. But becoming attractive, to me, it means that you're becoming better. You're becoming more helpful to your environment. You're becoming more valuable to the marketplace. That makes you more attractive. That will attract success, not because you're going after it like a hungry person, right? And I think that's what most people are doing. We go after it thinking that it's going to come if we chase it. Whereas if we work on ourselves and we work on developing our skills and becoming better, even if now I'm going to step a little bit on, oh God, I was stuck with the name on, oh man, I forgot the name. Give me 1 sec, because I want to credit the person who actually says it. I want to credit it normally. Oh God. Yeah, I'm gonna laugh when I see the name. I am. Hang on. How you begin to. Yeah, that's the voice. That's the voice.
How about Steve Harvey?
No. Oh, where's the Les Brown? Yes, thank you, Les Brown. When you work on yourself, when you become a better version of yourself, this is my own words, something else will come into your lap and you'll be like, oh, I'm gonna do this then, because you will have the skills that you develop that you can actually do it. Whereas even if the first dream that doesn't pay off, or the first idea it doesn't pay off, that's why I said but what we know right now, the given circumstances, because things might change. But if you have developed yourself, you will be better equipped to handle any new challenge, and your confidence will be higher. And this is one thing we forget, that the things that I'm sorry if I'm stepping on a different direction, but it's something that I need to say that out loud to myself every time I hesitate to do anything. Self-esteem grows when we do the things that scare us and we don't want to do. The things that we do that come easy and we're good at, yes, we do them, but they're easy. They come easy to us. They don't grow our self-esteem, our self-confidence. Those two will grow when we will do things that we are scared shitless to do.
Right.
And by doing that slowly, and if we fail consistently, but we keep doing it, at some point we will become better, because okay, how many times are you going to fail before you actually learn and apply something new, right? So you will develop, and that will make you a better person. Like you said, there's no way you would have said what you said now like you said in the beginning of the year. You grew from it, right? So that will make you more confident, because you have risen, you have grown, right? So every time we hesitate, we just have to remember that we're going to be more confident when we take action into doing something we're scared to do.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times that one decision that you're scared of to do the most,
yeah,
that's probably the right decision to do.
Oh, is that thing scare me to do? Am I afraid to do that? That's exactly what I have to do. And it's freaking scary. And sometimes we like, because I'm in a place in my life right now where I have the opportunity to do something new as well, on top of everything else that I'm doing. And something has to leave my schedule in order for me to do it. And I'm so scared to do it, because of past that it didn't go very well, or I didn't act enough, or I didn't act quickly enough, or I didn't take a 10x action on it, but I took 1x, which got me mediocre results. And now I'm in that fork again in my life where I'm like, I have to make a decision fast and I have to act on it, and I'm scared. But I know if I do this now, if I act now, my life will change. But I'm scared. And I'm procrastinating, and that's where I am now. But I know I have to do the thing that I'm scared to do.
Yeah, I think it was the last 10x business boot camp that I was at, virtual one. At the end of it, I think it was Grant looked at the crowd and he went, the reason why you won't succeed isn't because your business is a bad idea. It's because of self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason you won't succeed.
Mm.
So I know that's been one of my biggest fears that I've had to work on overcoming this year. Because as there gets to be more and more of a vision, and like, this is where this is going to be, and that image gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, I'm like, there's no going back. Like, when this thing gets going, like, I have to leave that old life, that old me who I've gotten comfortable with, like there is a ton of security with what I have right now. Like, "Uh, are you really sure you want to do this? Like, yeah, this is a great idea. And yeah, I'm going to help out a lot of people, but like
It's
my
scary.
life is going to change completely." And I'm like,
And that's why I've asked you that in the beginning. Why would you want to leave your comfortable job into going something that it's brand new and you starting up?
yeah, I'm like, why not? Why not me? Because I mean, and one of the big motivators for me too is because there's so with friends and different people, I've kind of put myself to like this top elevated status with a lot of friends and people, to where a lot of people think a lot of great stuff about me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, for me, I'm like, part of the reason why I'm like, hey, I want this to be where there's financial freedom and things with it that just comes with the business and everything else and helping out a ton of people.
Sure.
It's that I know that, like, if because my parents are retired, what if with everything, all their money, it goes down to where my dad has to start working or other stuff? Like, tell them, don't worry about it. I got you. And my brother-in-law has always had health issues. And my sister's told me in the past, she's like, something happens to Cody, we're moving in with you. Whether that happens or not, I'm like, it doesn't matter. But to the point where, hey, do your coaching on the side cover for you? If you need any help with the boys, I got you. And all this different stuff to where my world, I I've got you. And like you're covered. Don't worry about the cost.
Yeah.
And with with different stuff, like I ended up going to a funeral, and me and the guy who died, me and him, we talked maybe 5 times. I could only
Wow.
really remember 3 or 4 serious conversations that we ever had. So I get to the end of the funeral and I'm talking to his wife,
Wow.
Michelle, and she's like, Richard thought the world of you. And I'm like, so if there's this guy who thought the world of me that I didn't even know, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, if I can't live up to a certain standard in a certain way to where I'm honoring him because he thought the world of me, then I'm doing a disservice to him.
Wow.
Recently, I might have had a friend who just got sentenced to life in jail.
Wow.
So I'm like, he's got this huge life that he might not have done anything big, but that means one of us has to live for 2 now because you can't. So that's one more thing on there. And like all this different stuff to where it's like whatever the end ends up being and whatever that looks like, I'm like, whatever I do has to it has to equal all that stuff because there's Ed Milet's got a saying to where all the stuff that he does, it's to where when he dies and he meets that other version of himself, and that guy goes, look at who you could have been, but you weren't. And some of my pull is, what if I meet that other version of me and that guy goes,
You
look at,
you're effed up.
look at what you could have been. Like, you could have done this. Like, here you let fear hold you back. Here you let all this stuff, like, instead of pursuing that dream, that goal, you chase that girl or whatever it is, or you stayed in that uncomfortable job and you knew it, but because it was comfort and you didn't like it, you chose not to become that best version of yourself. And it's going, that can't be me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And that's what how we should work our lives every day. Wake up and think that to keep us motivated. It's not, making a vision board and looking at it and be like, hey, that's fun, and going back. And can I ask you one thing? Because it's something that I have struggled with, because, procrastination is something I think we all have within us. Some people more, some people less.
Right.
But for me, I mean, I started this investing, trading, entrepreneurial, personal development journey more or less about 2.5 years ago. And I'm definitely not where I could be for various reasons. But sometimes I'm thinking, hang on, you've only been around this for like just over 2 years. You were never thinking like that prior 2 years ago. Not even a year and a half ago, I wasn't thinking the same way. I'm thinking now. And sometimes I'm like, so cut yourself some slack, as in, this is brand new. You can't change 30 plus years of your life in 6 months. Like, the way you're thinking, at least, that it won't change that fast. But for you, where are you in regards to changing how you used to think in regards to how you're thinking now in comparison to how we're thinking now? Like, how long have you been in this journey?
So, I mean, I think I've been in the journey a bunch, but a lot of people, when I tell them that I have multiple sclerosis, one of the most common reactions I get is, I'm so sorry. I'm like, don't be. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's been the best gift it's been the best thing that's happened to me. Like, what are you saying? And then I'll tell people, I'm like, because of how I've grown as a person, it's been the best thing that's happened to me. Because before I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, when you get stuck in a culture for so long and you're not careful around whoever it is, we start becoming like that culture. And in the construction culture, we like talking about drugs, like talking about alcohol, like we got messed up, went to the bar. The majority of people don't want to be on the job site. They want to be at a bar drinking beer. Like, that's beer 40 and beer 30. And so there's that. And let's sleep around with as many people as we can. Like, those are the big 3 vices. So I got told by the first job site that I worked, my foreman was like, do you smoke? Do you drink? Or do you sleep around? I was like, no. He was like, well, at some point, you're going to do one of those, because working in construction, you have to. And guys laughed. So before I was diagnosed, I was day drinking on the weekends.
Wow.
And smoking cigars. I always had drug tests, so I never got into taking drugs. Like, I've never been high in my entire life. And that's because I always tried to work, and there was always drug tests. So it seemed kind of counterintuitive to do that.
Yeah.
And so, and at the end, started getting more promiscuous and stuff.
Sure.
But and then when I ended up getting diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, it was like a punch in the mouth. I was like, oh my gosh,
You have to change.
I worked on, like, I need to get back to working on my relationship with God and
Mm,
all that, because I've destroyed that. Like, oh my gosh, what's happening to me right now? Quit drinking, quit smoking, and all this stuff, and then did a 180. And that really kicked off. Before, I cared about personal growth and stuff like that, but never like it was then. Because if my physical body goes down, I have to be in a better place mentally, to where
to handle it.
I can, if I have to switch up my job industry, I can do that. It's not a problem. So I
Yeah.
did that, and then working around, the more and more you get deeper into a certain culture, like the 10X culture, Tony Robbins, whoever,
Mm,
that money's a big issue that always comes up.
yeah.
Because if we run with a lot of the thinking that our parents teach us, when gotta save all your money, gotta do all this other stuff. And then those guys are like, no, we're putting the money into smart investment. So
Sure.
where if something happens, yeah, we have enough to cover that. And
Yeah.
like all this different stuff. But like, that was one of the things. And changing my thoughts when it comes to growing and helping people out. And all that started to change more after I got diagnosed, and then started my journey. And
When
from
did
there,
you, when were you diagnosed again?
2018.
2018. Okay. So more or less the change started back then. But what you said before is actually very right. Because most people, 9 out of 10 people, we wait for a catastrophe, death, a diagnosis, something external to make us change. But the thing is that with everything we know now, why would we wait? What we would wait? Like, we know all those things, so the smart thing, and I think that's where the real struggle is making the change without having this catastrophe ahead of us, and reaching to our full potential.
Yeah, and a
Regardless.
lot of that, right? And a lot of that comes down to pain.
Mm,
So what causes the most pain for you?
mm,
So a lot of the times people don't change before there's a major event,
yeah, yeah,
because there isn't something that they go, oh, I have to change. But when you have that major event, your life kind of gets, there's two ways it can go. You can either go, oh my gosh, look at me, this is way too much. Because when I got diagnosed, one of the big reasons I quit drinking was, I was like, if I keep on drinking, getting drunk, like, it looks more like I'm pity drinking than
yeah,
anything else.
sure.
I'm like, I can't have that.
Mm,
So there was that. And then I went to Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins this year in April. I want to say it was April or May. And that at the end of that, they give a free coaching call, and trying to get people to jump onto their coaching program and whatnot. But I was talking to him, and he was going, because he was like, I've had the same conversation with, he's like, I had the same conversation thousands of times. He was like, you know what you should be doing, you're not doing it.
mm,
He's like, why is that, Michael? And I was like, I guess it's because there's not enough pain or something. He was like,
mm,
it's indecision. He was like, you're holding yourself back because your brain's there to protect you. So when you want to change,
your brain
your
goes, no, no,
brain
no, no,
goes,
no.
exactly, that's uncomfortable. I'm
Yeah.
here to protect you. I don't want you to do that uncomfortable thing. So people don't change. They hold themselves back from changing. And
Mm,
he was like, it's in that moment where you go, I'm going to change, and you do it,
Yeah.
that's when you actually start getting stuff done. So whenever there's something that's holding me back, sometimes I'm like, man, why am I not doing this? It's like, just go and do it. Like, get up, do it. Like, there's a reason why the majority of people, when they get off of work, they go to a bar, or they go to a similar, familiar setting, or somewhere
Yeah.
that keeps them comfortable. It's because if they get out of that setting, that's why so many people love watching TV, because you come home, turn it on, it's comfortable.
Mm.
And when you get put into that uncomfortable state, your brain goes,
No.
I don't think you know what you're doing. Like, hold on, man. Like, no, don't do
Yeah.
that.
And actually, one thing, I think it's GC who's doing it. He's always starting with the thing that is the most difficult for him to do. I can't do that. I have to start small, like out of tasks, and then grow, get myself into the tough one. But the other way around could work with people as well. Like I think I haven't done that yet enough, but something that I think it's scientifically, I'm going to be correct scientifically speaking, and anybody who listens or you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the whole uncomfortable state, we all have it within us, and it's genetic, because it starts from like prehistoric times when people kept moving around because they had to survive. So they were in constant state of fear and in constant state of survival. So the moment our bodies started being like, okay, we can chill now, we can relax now, we're safe. The moment you go back to their comfortable state is your brain telling you, you have to save your life. You have to survive. So it's scary. So your brain doesn't want to go there. It wants to stay cozy and warm and fuzzy and comfortable. So if you really think about it, we don't have bears or snow or ice age. We don't have a hunter coming after us with like somebody coming after us to eat us alive. So like we need to kind of grow ourselves past that point as humans, but we really don't. And I think the reason why we admire the people we don't admire them because they have something magical within them. They have the same safety mentality. It's just that they are choosing to work through that, to work past that. And that's when courage comes in. Nobody is more courageous than others. Just that people choose to work through their fears and through their uncomfortable states. And that's why we admire them, because they find that fire, the pain, whatever it is within them that makes them do that. And that's what, like, look at films and like the heroes we see on films, and like the scared little bird that suddenly steps up and like does what never they need to do because they have to do it. So we don't watch films of people who were like, oh, this is too scary, let me go lock myself in the room, because there wouldn't be a story there, right? And yeah, like we have to keep pushing and do the comfortable thing to get where we need to go.
Yeah, I think the crazy thing about all that is, I forget who has the thought, but there's a thought out there, at least in the self-development world. I'm not sure where it comes off of that. And that the like, if you take a piece of paper, write out all your different heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Just take 6 or 8 different heroes, whatever the number is. And I did this when I was going through Unleash Her Power Within, UHPW. And so what they had us do, what KK had us do, which was our instructor for the course, and she's a big Tony Robbins coach, and that she had us write out the list of our heroes' names, and then write out normal everyday heroes, bigger heroes, like if Tony Robbins is one, your dad, GC, whoever, and that you write out those people, and then write what you admire in those people. And then the next thing that we did And for a lot of people, I think it was week 4, week 5, that was the most powerful week for the majority of people, is then you switch that from all those things that they said to you. Because a lot of the things that we see in other people, that's in you too.
Yeah.
So if you say that person's a great father, well, maybe you're a great father too. Or that
Because you
person has
recognize something
courage.
familiar in the other person.
That person has a ton of courage. Well, maybe I have a ton of courage too. And all this other stuff, because, and there's also the reverse of that. Because I've found when I hear people complaining about other people,
yeah, I was gonna say
that
that. Yeah.
same thing that they're complaining about, when you look at them, you're like, you do the same thing too. Or whatever it, or whoever that is. So like whatever you think of somebody else, there's a good chance that that's inside you too. Of course, not all of that is within somebody else. Like you see mass genocides, you don't go, oh yeah, like I'd order 100 million people to get killed. Like I'm not sure. But I mean, on the opposite side of that, it's like whatever you value, you look at, because I'll look at my mentors, I'm like, they were able to do this.
Yeah.
Why am I not there? Like, what's the thing that's holding me up? Because I see that in them, that's in me. I just have to be able to pull it out of me and figure out what that gap is. So like, where's that gap?
So what would you say there's the, if you had to like give advice, or like 5 tips you would give to somebody who is either thinking of making a change but be afraid of, or wanting to apply some different, or something you've learned? Do you want to give 5 tips or 5 lessons you've had?
Sure. I think probably the first one is just like, go for it. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Yeah, you might fail, but, or lesson, because nothing's a failure. There's lessons in everything.
Of course.
Like, go for it. If it doesn't work out, you can start again. Like, I listen to a lot of these big business guys. They're like, you get all massive debt and you have to claim bankruptcy. The banks have to claim all that money. You don't have to do anything with it. They're like, then you just start again. They're like, you only have to be right once. I'm like, just get started. Next thing is just keep on moving. Because, well, one of the things I got from the Tony Robbins call is that guy was like, instead of holding yourself back, just get up and do it. He's like, that's the thing that's holding you back. Just get up and do it. And then he was like, when you do that consistently, he was like, when he talked about, it was something like 12 to 16 months. If you do that consistently, then it'll be in you for forever. You just have to do it consistently for a long period of time, and then it becomes a part of your character.
Okay. So
and then
do it, keep consistent, be consistent with it.
Right. And then keep on learning.
Keep on
Like
learning.
what we need, like because I mean, so one of my the one sales coach I'm working with, she talked about LBD. She's like, with the different phases of your business is LBD, and she learned this from, I think it was Rob Dial, maybe.
Okay.
And LBD stands for learn, build, do. So when you're in business, at some stages you're going to be learning, some stages you're going to be building, and some stages you're going to be doing. When you're able to say, this is the stage that I'm in, So you commit all your action to that thing, and then like when you first start out, you're in the learning stage.
Yeah.
Then you decide to do something, you're in the building stage. Then at some point, when you got all your systems set up and automated and all that, you're in that doing stage, which is, we see everybody in the doing stage. We don't really see anybody in that learning and building stage, because nobody remembers the failures. Everybody remembers the success stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then maybe the most important one is go all in. Like, don't hold yourself back. Just go all in, because no matter what, just believe that it's going to work out. Because when I've found when I do something and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work out, and you hold yourself back, it's not going to work out. And then you end up kicking yourself and you're like, man, like, I knew it wasn't going to work out, or all this other stuff. But even when you don't know that's going to work out, you go, this is going to work out. Everything's going to happen. I don't know how, but I'll figure that out as we go along. So just go all in, because the people who go all in, they're usually the ones who succeed instead of fail. And then, or if they didn't make it, they were that close. And then the next business they start up, that one might be the one that succeeds.
Sure.
Because a lot of entrepreneurs, they have to start 5 different businesses before one takes off.
Before they actually, yeah.
And a lot of that's just from trying different stuff and figuring things out and doing a bunch of different stuff to where it finally succeeded. And then the last one is probably have some grace on yourself. Like, there's going to be a lot of 2mm changes in there. Don't beat yourself up. Have grace. Like, what you need to work on, like, you'll figure everything out when it comes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It does. Maybe that would be the 6th one. Doesn't have to be perfect. But that 5th one is just have grace on yourself, because we're all in the same journey. And it doesn't help you out to be mean to yourself and beat yourself up. Like, everything will come together when it should. Just believe that it's going to work out, and it usually does.
Wow. I love that. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for everything. We've been around for quite a while. I think I'm gonna slice this baby in 2, so it won't be too long for anyone to listen. But thank you so much. Thank you. I've learned loads, and the last part, I think, was really, really useful. And I hope that everybody who listens to, and yourself, because let's face it, we do the same way that you said that the things we recognize in other people that either we admire or that annoy us is usually things that we have within us. That's why they're familiar. We look at them. We won't recognize things that we're unfamiliar with, right? So the same way with the things we're saying to ourselves every day, and the reason we're doing this is because it's part of our growth as well. So I hope that you enjoyed your time and that you learned something. I know that I did. And for everybody who listens, I want to say thank you so much for listening. And I hope you learned your little thing as well, or your big thing as well. And I hope you got encouragement from Michael. And so thank you for being here.
Thank you again for having me.
Of course. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you, Michael, very, very soon.
Sounds great. All right.
Bye, everyone. Bye.